I've chosen a theme for tonight: unpopular but progressive. Unpopular but progressive. If you don't remember anything about what I say, just remember unpopular but progressive. In all of these wars, the destruction on human lives and properties have been immense and in most cases indescribable. Responses to these crises in Africa globally depends on our partners in the international world strategic interests. So countries will only get involved in intervening in some of these crises depending on what natural resources they stand to benefit from these countries. And in most instances in the countries in Africa, it's been sad because a lot of our countries do not have or did not have the kind of oil that most nations were going after. African conflict tends to receive a snail pace attention in some cases, and in other cases, no attention at all. In 1994, one of the biggest sadness of our world and the continent Africa was the war in Rwanda. 3 months, 800,000 people lost their lives as the world sat with folded arms and watched people butcher each other. The scars of the Sierra Leonean Civil War is ever present. You walk through the streets of Sierra Leone, and for the next 10 decades, I doubt if anyone in West Africa will forget. Images of children and women who have been amputated both arms, soldiers who ask people to decide, do you want short sleeves, meaning we'll hack your arms from here, or do you want long sleeves, meaning we'll hack your arms from here, is a common scene in that community. The impact of the war on Sierra Leone will forever be remembered by those of us who live in West Africa. I can never forget the story of a 3-year-old girl who asked her parents as she grew and realized that both hands had been cut from this point. She asked her mother one day, will my hands ever grow back? Those are the images, those are the stories that you find in most parts of Africa at the end of the Cold War. Today, the conflict in DR Congo, the Ocholi land of Uganda and Somalia are amongst the world's forgotten conflict. Few years back, we went to the UN and we were advocating for women's rights in peace and security processes. And all of the attention was on the Arab world, Iraq and Afghanistan. And I remember a sister from Uganda taking a picture of a woman whose lip had been cut off, turning to the panel of experts at the UN and asking them, are these not also victims of conflict? Why are we not talking about these women? Why are we not talking about the children who are being conscripted into armed conflict and are being used to kill and maim their families? Recently, we've seen an upsurge of violence in Mali, West Africa, coming from the north, and a group is imposing Sharia laws everywhere. Someone told me one of the scenes in the camps in Mali are scenes of women who are so distressed because the ones who started the war gave these women, children, drugs, and asked these young boys as a show of strength to rape their mothers. What is important for all of us to note, as the world sits undecided on what actions to take in most of these forgotten conflicts, the toll on human lives continues to be devastating. Women and children continue to bear the greatest brunt of all of the world's conflict. In the case of the wars, as they continue to be fought, in most countries they are fought on the bodies of women. The U.S. Public Health Journal recently reported that, and I think it's a little over the top, but they reported that on the average, 1,152 Congolese women are raped every day. It means 48 women every hour, 4 every 5 minutes. Think about it. Whether true or inflicted, these figures, the fact still remains that women are paying for a war that most of them have no idea why it's being fought and how it is being fought. Outside of Africa today, one of the biggest tragedies we are all observing on TV, listening to on the radio, is Syria. Members of the UN Security Council and other world powers continue to play politics as babies and mothers are maimed and killed daily. The sad state of these nations in particular, and our world in general, is due to individuals' unwillingness to take positions that are not popular. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a great civil rights activist in the U.S., once said, and I quote, "There comes a time when one must take the position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he or she must do it because conscience tells him it's right," unquote. The question we must all ask ourselves in this room is, what is my position for good? What is the position of the people of Mönchengladbach for good? What positions have you taken for global good? How can I take a stand and help create change whilst our nations and leaders continue to take positions that are popular and political? 3, sick and tired of war, a group of us ordinary Liberian women who had been raped, abused, maimed, and our children had been adopted, decided to take a position that was neither popular, nor politically correct, nor safe. We decided we were going to stand up against all odds and speak up against the tyranny that had taken over our nation. It wasn't politically expedient, but we decided it was time to speak up anyway. President Taylor, the former president of Liberia, who is currently in The Hague for war crimes in Sierra Leone, had established himself as one of the worst dictators of West Africa. Anyone who publicly criticized his regime were indicted for some form of military sabotage. He had laws that prohibited public protest and public display of dissatisfaction in his regime. He also had soldiers in every corner of the streets of Monrovia. In essence, we lived in a police state. As women, mothers, and victims, we decided it was time for us to turn our tragedy into triumph. It was time for us to turn our pain into pressure and persistent resistance. We had come to a place where we knew that silence was not an option, that we had to rise up and do what our consciences were instructing us to do. The decision to step into the space and openly protest a war was not embraced by many. We were initially called many names: toothless bulldogs, pathetic looking, women seeking for husbands, just to name a few. From April 2003 to December 2005, we used our broken bodies of rape and abuse to confront the tyrants and oppressors. We conducted sit-ins, issued press statements, organized vigils and prayer rallies. We did everything we felt would give us peace. And just to mention, sex strike. 6 months into our protest, a peace agreement was signed. Our unpopular position paid off, not just for us and our children, but an entire nation. Today, Liberia has been hailed and celebrated as the first country in Africa to elect Africa's first female president. It did not come by taking a position that was popular. It came by taking a position that was unpopular but progressive. A key lesson I draw from the Liberian women's experience is that to hold an unpopular position requires courage. The social pressure will make you question your belief. And many times I question my belief. Were we doing the right thing? Is nonviolence efficient and effective in a world where violence seems to have taken over? Are we ever going to make a change? Is this something that the world will ever celebrate us for doing? Are our children ever going to remember that we did what was good, even though it was unpopular? We live in a world today where it's easy to go with a popular position or belief. The young people will say, I'm following what is trendy. I want to go with what is fashionable. And if you're not going with what is fashionable, you're constantly classified as the odd one. It is easy for people to take positions that everyone will take. A few weeks ago, I had the nerve and the audacity to criticize the President of the Republic of Liberia. Oh my God, that was an unpopular position. Women, men, and in most cases, young people issue statements in Liberia condemning me. I've been dubbed a disgrace to womanhood. Many things have been said about me from my personal life to my professional life. But one thing that has happened, in as much as it was unpopular, I slept very well because my conscience told me this was the right thing to do. It isn't trendy. I've lost some friends. My name is spoken as a whisper in some corners. Not many people want to be seen as friends to this rebel who dare criticize Africa's first female president. Even though it's not trendy, the one consolation I have is that at the end of the day, I served my conscience. Many of us today live in societies where we have good jobs. The economy is blooming for us. Our families are okay. Kids are achieving. And this is the first time I've seen in this world when young people are making so much more money than older people by setting up things like Facebook, Twitter, eBay, Ubay, Ybay. Everything is going so well. And the easiest position for you to take is a position of compromise. It's easy for you to say to yourself, I'm in this company, and there is a serious problem with the other workers, but as long as I'm friends with the CEO, I want to continue to be with what is trendy. I do not want to be in a place where I'm seen as unpopular. A few months back, Malawi became the second country in Africa to have a female president. The AU decided, the African Union decided to host a summit in Malawi to welcome President Joyce Banda to its ranks. She told them her position. It was neither popular nor politically correct, neither was it safe, but her conscience told her this was the right thing to do. What was her position? You can come as long as President Bashir of Sudan doesn't come to my country. That was her position. I am not prepared to entertain an internationally indicted war criminal. The AU decided we would take our summit back to Addis Ababa. When President Banda was asked later, did she regret? He said, no, I have no regrets, and I will do it again. In 2003, George W. Bush, former president of the US, was leading America to a war based on fake arguments. In that same year, early on in the year, a country music group, Dixie Chicks, lead singer Natalie Manis, at a concert in London said to her audience, and I quote, "Just to let you know, we are ashamed our president is from Texas," unquote. This was a very unpopular position. The consequence of their statement was the country music rating of their albums dropped. The media commentaries in many corners in Texas urged them to sing and shut up. Their unpopular position made them a group that was very popular, unpopular in a short space of time. They continued their advocacy against the war because they were serving their conscience. They persisted and never wavered. They never offered up an apology. Later on, they won 3 Grammys for the song they made in defiance to their critics, "Not Ready to Make Nice." Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, if you are right, and you know you are right, stick with it. A great women's rights activist once said, and I'll quote again, "Moral cowardice that keep us from speaking our mind is as dangerous to this world as irresponsible talk." The right way may not always seem popular and is not the easy way. Standing up for right when it is unpopular is a true test of moral character, unquote. You may find yourself in a space, in a place, in this country, in this environment, where you've taken a stand, and you're questioning yourself, like I question myself many days. Why did I have to speak up? Oh my God, Leymah, you have such a big mouth, you should not have said it. Many days I lie down, and when it was a constant battle. But at the end of the day, there is an inner peace. Because whilst you try to rationalize in your head, your heart is telling you, be calm, you've done the right thing. When I made that statement, the backlash came from family, my uncles, some of my dad. So if you know anything about African culture, you know my dad was in trouble. And they said to him, "Why can't you control your daughter?" I'm 40 years old, for heaven's sake. I've been out of that home a long time ago, but they were still urging him to control me. His response was, by our tradition, it is the uncles who discipline their nieces. Go and try. When we had the conversation, I said to him, we said, "Papi, you know what I think?" And he said, "No." I said, "If I was a boy, they would bring champagne and wine and gin, and they would be slapping you on your shoulders and saying to you, 'You raised a good son.' But because I'm a girl, and I dare to step into a space, first, that is unpopular. Second, even more unpopular because I'm a woman. So today, I've become a thing that no one wants to reckon with. But it's well and good. Because you know, one thing I know, even as I did my research on this topic, one thing I know is that what is popular always leaves legacies. What is unpopular always leaves legacies. When Dr. King started the civil rights struggle, that was very unpopular. Who is this black man to challenge the status quo? When Rosa Parks stood up in the bus in defiance with the laws, who is this woman to shake the status quo? When Mandela decided, "I'm going to fight against the apartheid regime," who is this young man to try to shake or rock the boat? Mother Teresa, Gandhi, all of the of great men and women. We can go on naming and naming and naming. Even in this country, people hear Dark Hammershot. They go on, we can go on naming because they took positions in this world that were neither popular, nor politically correct, nor safe. But what is important to note is that all of those unpopular positions were progressive. Today, the world, in my opinion, is upside down. It's upside down because a lot of us good people prefer to stand in spaces that are trendy. We don't want to speak up because it's going to make us to look unpopular. We don't want to get involved in political rocking the boat because it will cause us to look very crazy. What do you want to raise? Do you want to be seen as one of those silent bystanders who stood by and observed our world, your community, and your society turn upside down? Or do you want to take a position that is unpopular but progressive? To sum it all up, I know we think we are all progressive because if I ask, let me see the hands of all of those who are progressive in this room, everyone will put their hands up, and if you give them the chance to put their feet up, if you give them the chance to put their heads up, and we all believe that we live in a progressive world. If we are all right, that this is a progressive world that we live in, and that we're progressive people, I want you to listen in conclusion to the words of Adlai Stevenson, a famous American politician, in a speech given at Princeton University in 1954. He said, and I quote, "All progress has resulted from people who took unpopular positions." I think